Today we're going to be looking at another graphics card, and that's the RTX 3060 Ti. You'll find a lot of these cards in eBay or on your local used marketplace. If you're a value-conscious gamer, is this card a good option for 1440p gaming? We're going to be running this card on our usual multiplayer shooters, and we'll be doing all of that in 1440p with competitive settings. Our goal would be to see if this can reach a decent FPS or high enough FPS, and more importantly, stable frame times. And to make things interesting, on the later part of the video, we're also going to compare our RTX 3060 Ti against a much more modern card, and that's the RTX 4060. Let's see if picking the newer card is a much more practical choice, considering that they both have 8GB of VRAM. We bought our RTX 3060 Ti at our local used online marketplace for around $200. This one is the ASUS Dual Mini model. This is a dual fan design, which is probably what you would see with most of the RTX 3060 Ti's out there. The 30 series card is based off a bigger and inefficient node from Samsung, which means our RTX 3060 Ti will draw a lot of power, and with dual fan designs, it could also mean it may not have the best thermal performance, which you'll see later in this video. We're putting this GPU on our Ryzen 5800X3D rig, which has 32GB of system memory, running the latest drivers, and Windows has been updated. We have run our games for at least 30 minutes before starting our benchmark. We started recording these days when we were able to achieve consistent results, and to ensure there's no performance loss in these benchmarks, we have recorded it with a capture card on a separate PC. Now, before we proceed, here's a quick word from our video sponsor, AliExpress, and they're running another massive sale. I've been using AliExpress for almost a decade now because I always find really good deals on this website. Take, for example, these processors. If you're building a budget gaming PC, the Ryzen 5600 Non-X is a decent choice, and you can find that in AliExpress for $72. If you're wanting something with much more crunch, the Ryzen 7800 X3D is an amazing choice for $294. They ship worldwide, and if you key in this coupon codes right here, you'll get up to $20 discount. Links are in the descriptions. Get those deals right now. Anyway, let's go to our first game, Warzone, and let's start things off by just running the standard 1080p for reference, and this is how it goes. Pretty good so far. We are GPU bottleneck here with around 150 FPS and lows at 100 FPS. Frame times for the most part is consistent, and this is on the live game, by the way, plunder mode with a lot of players in the map. Okay, let's compare this now with 1440p with quality DLSS. You can see that we have lost some FPS here with the higher resolution. We are running now at around 130 FPS, lows are still at 100, and frame times remain consistent mostly. One thing to note here, our RTX 3060 Ti does tend to run hot, like that's burning hot, but according to Nvidia, this is within spec, so yeah, GPU power is around 160 watts. On the actual gameplay, the RTX 3060 Ti is pretty decent. We are getting similar results with our benchmark run on close range fights. This is just off the drop, and there is no stuttering during this first engagement. Definitely playable, and we're able to frag on this one on scenes with wider landscape and view range. We also don't have any issues here. Our GPU power does pull through at around 180 watts. Gulag is also a decent experience. Can't complain to this one, boys. The RTX 3060 Ti is a decent option for 1440p gaming and Warzone. Not crazy high FPS, but definitely very playable. Moving on to our next game, Apex Legends, and I know this game has been review bombed recently due to the reports of cheating, but hey, if you're looking to play this game with RTX 3060 Ti, it's also good at 1440p. Our FPS is less than 200 with lows at around 140 FPS. Apex Legends is well optimized, so our frame times here is pretty smooth even when we are on engagements with the enemy Legends. So far so good. Once again, not crazy high FPS, but it's dependable and consistent. If you're wanting to develop stability and precision in your mechanical skills, this card is definitely not a bad choice for Apex Legends. Next up is a highly competitive game, and it's Fortnite. If you're not familiar with Fortnite, this game has 3 APIs, and here we have all 3 of them. When looking at all 3, The best in terms of consistency would be DX12. However, if you want the best responsiveness, it would be performance mode. Here we have performance mode on a real-world battle royale game, and as expected, we have pretty high FPS. GPU utilization is not maxed out. However, we are still pulling a whole lot of power on this card, reaching all the way up to 190 watts. Lows is around 150 FPS. However, 0.1% lows is pretty bad in this game. This can be related to server issues or its anti-cheat system, which does cause certain random frame time spikes. Generally, this is why I would just disregard this 0.1% lows metric on Fortnite. Overall, this is still a pretty solid experience. GPU temperatures is at 80 degrees, which isn't as bad as the other game. Before we proceed, boys, if you're interested in PC hardware performance on our multiplayer shooters, subscribe to our channel so you will be up to speed with these things. Anyway, let's move on. Another game which tends to be very competitive despite only requiring minimal graphic resources is Valorant. At 1440p competitive settings, the RTX 3060 Ti is definitely more than what you'd need for Valorant. We're not GPU bound here, and on the real game, there will be some status at the start of the game. However, this does disappear as we move on to the next few rounds. We're getting pretty high FPS here, 400 to 500 FPS, as we're able to stretch the legs of our Ryzen 5800X 3D processor. Frame times are pretty stable too after a few rounds. I mean, the first round will have those initial stutters. However, the later part will be good. Our GPU is running at around 75 degrees here, much cooler compared to our other games because it's not really pushed to the limit. So yeah, moving back to another multiplayer shooter, we have PUBG. For this run, we are using the DX11 Enhanced API, which seems to be the most stable of all three APIs when we tested it last. PUBG is a slower paced game which favor long-range visibility and situational awareness, hence why 4040p would be great for this game. On our standard Battle Royale game, we're getting really high FPS for 4040p, close to about 200 with lows at around 100. We haven't maxed out our GPU when we're on urban scenarios. Temperatures do tend to get high again, although not as high as the other games we've tested. There are occasional stutters in game. However, this is expected with PUBG, which I believe is something to do with their server or the game engine itself. Otherwise, this one's playable 4040p. GPU power, once again, is very high. Definitely no complaints on the RTX 3060 Ti in this one. I mean, it's okay. It's okay for this guy. Helldivers 2 is another multiplayer shooter which has a lot of effects and NPC. This game has a massive update dropping next month.
Escalation of freedom.
So we better be prepared. Here's our RTX 3060 Ti performing on raw 4040p in Helldivers 2. It's okay. It's definitely not the best here. On the training area, we are only getting about 70 FPS. I think we'll need to use an upscaler here, and here we have native 4040p against an upscale version with ultra quality render scale. There is definitely some boost in FPS here, which just pushes our RTX 3060 Ti about 3 milliseconds faster compared to our native 1440p. On Helldive difficulty with determinate bugs, pretty solid FPS here at around 80. Not amazingly high, but at least it's decent enough for response time. Now, because this is a PvE game, this should be okay. If you do want more FPS, you can always drop the render scale maybe one tier lower to quality, as we are currently GPU bound, and that should be able to push the FPS a little bit more higher at the expense of fidelity in game. Comparing the older RTX 3060 Ti against the newer entry-level RTX 4060, and here we can see the clear-cut difference between these two generations. Let's start with our DX12 games, and in Warzone, running quality DLSS at 4040p, the RTX 4060 is definitely amazing. It is slightly better than the older 3060 Ti, and consuming 30% less power. And obviously, the RTX 4060 also runs cooler. So if the price difference is not that much, I'd say just go with the RTX 4060 if you're playing Warzone. You get less heat, less power with slightly better performance. Our next DX12 game is Helldivers 2. In here, you can see it's also pretty close. Once again, it favors the RTX 4060 with similar scenarios. We get lesser heat, much lesser power, and that's like 60 watts difference. And you also have a slightly better frame rate. With these two DX12 games, you can see that it clearly favors the newer 4060, despite widely known that the RTX 3060 should have been better according to Tech Power Up's data. Let's move down to our DX11 titles, starting with PUBG, and I suppose this is probably where the older CAD tends to pull slightly ahead. However, this running benchmark doesn't really show much. Let's move down to our heavier action scene, and here we can see the RTX 3060 indeed pulling ahead. Much better frame rate and definitely much better lows as well. In Valorant, it also follows the same pattern. The RTX 3060 Ti leads on raw performance and definitely is the better CAD. That's if you don't mind the power consumption and the temperatures. The 4060 does have higher GPU utilization here compared to our 3060 Ti, which does result in slightly better stability. In Fortnite, it's quite close between these two cards. However, looking at this run, we can see that the RTX 4060 is slightly over. We've tested this multiple times and the results are consistent for both cards. So the 4060 definitely has the edge here. Slightly better FPS, lower temperatures, and definitely lower power consumption. The RTX 3060 Ti remains to be a good option for 1440p multiplayer gamers, especially if you can find this one at a good bargain in your local used marketplace. The caveat obviously would be its higher power consumption and maybe higher temperature as well. When compared to the 4060, there are definitely some games which favor the newer generation GPU, as what we've shown here. However, it's undeniable that the RTX 3060 Ti, if you find it at a good deal, does offer extreme value. Now, speaking of good deals, do you know what's another GPU that offers good value? That's the RX 5700 XT. We recently did a video of that card a few weeks back, so I think you would find that card really interesting. Click this video right here, and I'll see you guys over there.